Okay. And I'm going to recall the Clayton City Council meeting back to order. We had an earlier session where we were interviewing candidates for the Planning Commission. So now I'll bring everybody back to order, and you'll join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. First upon the agenda is the consent calendar.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those signify support by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Ordered. Next, recognitions and presentations. And this time, we'd like to ask our retiring and outgoing Planning Commissioner, Dan Richardson, to come forward. And microphone.
You're way too happy.
Yeah. Try and look like you really are bummed.
All the way up to the front so that the folks at home can see you.
Sure, I've been anonymous all these years.
Anyway, I guess it's been about, 8 years that you've served on the Planning Commission?
Certain year.
Very good. And that was from July of 2009 until this month, 2017. We certainly appreciate all of the things you've done for the city.
All of them?
All of
There's
them.
a couple, no.
And all the other things that you've done as well, and we appreciate it. And so as a token of and recognition for your service, we have a little gift here for you.
Oh, great, thank you.
And I know that Mindy has probably enjoyed working with you, as well as Tuia previously when she was on the Planning Commission, but great work. And now you can take it easy. I think we have some other things in store for you, but we'll figure that out at a later time. Would you like to offer a few words?
Thank you all, and I thank you. The city council's behind me, that side. Can I stand up? If I said hello to the people, can I turn around and talk to you?
Absolutely. But you need to talk into the microphone. If you want to use that one.
This is easier.
He's used to that one.
So I came here tonight, and I understand that it was supposed to thank me, but I want to thank all of you. You that are here, and those that came in front of you, both as staff and as the city council. It was about, 12 or 13 years ago, we as a community were struggling along, trying to figure out how do we keep money in our coffers and how do we preserve Clayton's character. The character that we all come to love and everything. And I'd read it and everything else like that and said, doggone it, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to pound on the, I didn't pound, but I'm going to come down here and say, come on now, we got to get a committee together, we got to sit down as a community and we're going to figure this thing out because I know we're all smart people here. Well, except the guy that lives near me, but he's not smart. But everybody else is pretty smart, And I said, let's get this thing solved. Let's get some blue ribbon people in here. Let's set a real committee. Okay, let's get it done. And I walked right out that door. And then I went home and I sat down. I said, doggone it, my parents raised me different. So I found myself down here volunteering, which I think is what you're supposed to do when you stand up and say something isn't quite the way it should be. I think you have a responsibility to help it become what you think it should be, if I could say it like that. So with the guidance and the assistance of the city council and the staff, I had the pleasure of serving on the Blue Ribbon Landscape Committee. I had the pleasure of being on the first Trails and Landscape Committee. I got the honor of chairing that for a few years. I got to run a Measure M, a Measure B, and a Measure H committee, and 2 of them were successful, and 1 of them was a real learning experience. Because we did what we thought we would do. We went to the community and said, what is it you want? And we listened. What a unique thing today, to listen to what people really want. And we realized, and I got to give it to Pete Lawrence, who sat up there and said, this is too much money. And we said, Pete, shh. We got it figured out. But he was right. But we said we got to at least float it out there and see what people want. And so I had the pleasure of doing that. I had the wonderful civics lesson of running for a city council, and I learned a lot. I really learned a lot. It's brutal out there. 8 people, every time I got up for something, 8 people stood up and said, no, he won't, you know, or 7 people, you know, and so I really enjoyed that, and then you hadn't learned your lesson, you went and you allowed me to be on the Planning Commission in 2009, and for the last 8 years, I had the joy of meeting more of my neighbors and those that make Clayton what it is. I had the joy of working with the city staff, these that are here and some that were there before, different community development directors, new community development directors. And all throughout this process and all throughout this, I call it a process. I'm a retired public servant, so everything's a process, right? So all through this joy, I met wonderful people, and they all helped me be a better person. And they helped me to become more in tune with my community when I thought I was in tune, and I found that I really wasn't, and I became more in tune. I got chances to walk this community several times handing out flyers. I met the grumpy and I met the happy. I met dogs that barked and dogs that really barked, you know, and I got to do all those kinds of things, and it's because of what you allowed me to do, to give me that first opportunity, those so many years ago, snowballed its way into, it just made this even more of a pleasurable experience than it was for the previous 20 years that I've lived in this community. Nearly 30 years now, nearly 20 then, can't count anymore. We still continue to be amazed at the people that are here, and just the quality of the community and the quality of what you all do and what the city staff does, who I always say gets, you know, overlooked sometimes. So for all that, I want to say thank you to you. So I know you came to say thank you to me, but I want to tell you that the pleasure's been all mine. And I want to thank you all for what you've done and what you've helped me be a better person.
Great. Thank you, Dan. My council colleagues wish to make any comments.
Absolutely.
I'd like to say a few words. So I had the opportunity to serve with Dan, I think 3.5 years, I think the first 2 years when you came on, and then again from 2015 on. And I think anybody who served with Dan, or at least has seen him in action at the Planning Commission, knows that the 4-year or the 4-term to 8-year limit that we have is definitely a loss to the city in your case. I think being a Planning Commission is not always the easiest task. You know, you have potentially controversial items, you also have varying opinions you have to balance, but I think, and sort of in addition, it's also often also the place when the public first learns of some regulation. So it's a lot of balancing to do, and I think anybody who knows Dan knows that you have an excellent approach to being a planning commissioner, sort of balancing it all from the educational aspect to being impartial and to making decisions. So I think you know, and I hope you know, that you'll be sorely missed at the Planning Commission. And instead of you thanking us, I think it is the city thanking you for doing your 8 years.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Well,
Julie.
Dan, let me just say, as one of those that helped recruit you to do some of those campaigns that you, some of the ones you enjoyed and the ones you didn't enjoy so much, we have enjoyed having you as part of our community. And you're not going anywhere. This particular assignment may be coming to a brief end, but you never know. We'll find another job for you. I have one I'm sort of thinking of already, and I can't think of someone better to serve our community than you. So you definitely will be missed on the Planning Commission.
That's very kind of you.
But not in our lives, I hope.
No,
You will still
no.
stay around, and we'll get to see you. And
I still wander the neighborhood with my dog.
that's great. That's great. Thank you.
I'll give my 3 cents. I've been around a long time and have known Dan's wit and wisdom and his lack of wit and his lack of wisdom. But the city really doesn't understand what a valuable resource he's been on a variety of things throughout this city. It seems like every time we do have a need for somebody outside of the council to do something, there's a short list of people that we think of immediately, and Dan is always at the front of that list, probably to his detriment. But you have done an amazing job for all the years that I've known you, and I do really enjoy your wit and your wisdom, and the city is going to be worse off for not having you on the Planning Commission. We have some new people that will come on and do great, but you will be missed, and I do hope that we continue to wrangle you into other jobs. Thanks, Dan.
You. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
I'll say.
Thank you. Okay, next, I and the City Council are going to be declaring the month of July as Anti-Hazing Awareness Month, and I'd like to invite Debbie Smith and Kristen, is it Paulette? Good. Come up here and join me, and also we'll take you to turn you around to look. Debbie's the CEO of the movement, and Kristen is the acting chair. And let me get this proclamation out, and whereas 77% of college students joining a club or an organization will be hazed whether or not their club or school condones it. And 47% of those students that have been hazed prior to going off to college. So this is something that's really quite serious. Whereas it is documented that hazing occurs as early as elementary school. That's, I find, surprising. And whereas hazing results in deaths dating back to the 1800s, and since 1969, hazing deaths have occurred every year, with thousands more sustaining serious physical and psychological injuries. And whereas hazing promotes brutality, degradations, humiliation, molestation, and self-loathing. And whereas the anti-hazing movement, awareness movement, was created in memory of Matt Carrington, who was killed in a water hazing event while pledging for a fraternity, and provides significant leadership in the area of community involvement in the education of our youth, grounded in the principle that education on the dangers of hazing is key to the community's well-being and long-term quality of life. The anti-hazing awareness movement promotes making better choices, understanding that there are consequences for actions, respect for one another, and personal development, and finding alternatives to hazing. And whereas the anti-hazing awareness movement is committed to the end of the senseless and tragic cycles of hazing and reaching out to empower and educate young people, I, therefore, Jim Diaz, Mayor of the City of Clayton, on behalf of the entire City Council, do proclaim July 2017 as Anti-Hazing Awareness Month. Thank you very much. And if you'll take a look out there, everybody, there's a camera right there, people at home will be able to see you. And if you would like to say a few words, we'd love to have you do so.
Yeah, I had something actually
Absolutely.
prepared.
Let me hold that for you.
Should I stay
And
here?
wait, they right here, and Julie's going to take a photograph.
I thought the press was here, but they're not, so.
Okay, and this is going to be posted in the local paper, the Clayton Pioneer.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead. I'll hold it until you're finished.
Yeah, should I stand here or?
Right here.
Okay.
We want you to be able to be seen at home.
Okay. So, as you mentioned, my name is Kristen Pollard. I'm the acting chair of the AHA Movement nonprofit organization. I wanted to give just a little bit of background as to what we're doing and why we're here. As Mayor Diaz pointed out, in 2005, Debbie's son, Matt, was killed in a water hazing incident that happened in Chico State. This happened while he was pledging a fraternity there. The incident forever changed our lives, not only the lives of Matt's family and friends, but also the lives of the fraternity members that were involved. There were actually 7 members who were convicted of hazing-related crimes, including involuntary manslaughter. And there was one specifically who was convicted of the first ever felony in the country related to hazing, so it was a big deal. Since Matt's death, Debbie has basically led a crusade to help change the way that our society views hazing. She started this in 2006 by getting the state legislature to enact Matt's Law, which increased the penalties of those convicted of serious hazing crimes. And then in 2015, the focus shifted to prevention, and this is when the AHA movement was born. Through this organization, Debbie, along with myself and the other board members, have been working hard to find ways to share Matt's story along with a variety of other awareness programs that we've created. The primary focus is basically to get this information out and into the local school system. We're trying to further educate and empower the young people so that they can better understand what hazing is, learn how to recognize it, and what to do about it. Our hope is that through these educational speaking programs, We can help to prevent the senseless and degrading, torturous, and potentially deadly acts of hazing so that no one else has to experience the pain and loss that Debbie and her family has had to endure. So with that said, I just wanted to reiterate that we greatly appreciate the City of Clayton for recognizing the importance of this issue and for standing with us to help make a change. And on that note, I just wanted to also mention that we are going to be putting on a fundraiser at the end of August, on August 25th. It's going to be a Monte Carlo night theme. It's going to be at the Pleasant Hill Community Center, and we would just like to formally extend an invitation to the city council members and staff and anyone else who's interested in this issue. The main focus is just to kind of raise some more funds in order to help get our programs into the school system, because our organization is run completely off of volunteers and donations. So any help we can get is always appreciated. And if anybody would like more information on the movement, or if you'd like to purchase tickets or learn about sponsorships, please visit our website. It's ahamovement.org. There's lots of information there. And that's it. Thank you guys again. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Debbie, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you. You know, I appreciate that you see the importance of what we're doing. It's been a hard road, but you know what? It's important that we let the kids know it's about saving lives and it's about parents not having to suffer, you know, what we suffer with every day. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you very much. There you go. Thank you. Okay. Next up on the agenda, we have our reports, and we'll begin with first the Planning Commission. There was no meeting, so nothing to report there. We did have a Trails and Landscape Committee meeting, and Anthony Chaparro is going to be here to give us a report on that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So we met for the first time in a while, and unfortunately we only had 4 members in attendance. So we decided to postpone the vote on the chair, but we did appoint a vice chair for the committee. We also, whenever activities, the current landscape maintenance activities and the projects that have been completed, including the Keller Ridge Drive tree and shrubbery plan. We approved the annual report for the fiscal year 2015 to 2016. And currently, we decided to suspend the Adopt a Trail program until we can find a member that wants to take on the task of going out there and trying to round up the donations and support. So it's a little tough. And we recommended approval of the landscape district budget as proposed by the city staff. And most importantly, the CPI this year was 3.78%, and as was voted on with Measure H, we decided to increase the tax by 3%. That's the maximum that we can increase it based on the CPI, but since the CPI was over 3%, we decided to go with the max. So, and that's it.
Any questions? None.
Good job. The report
Thank you.
looks really
Okay.
good.
Thank you.
Okay, next city manager and staff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I just have one item. Kind of our theme tonight is volunteerism and opportunity to serve. And there is an opportunity for a resident in our town, a citizen, to serve as the city's representative or delegate to what is called the Citizens Advisory Committee for the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. Now, the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, of which Councilmember Pierce is on and has chaired before, actually distributes money and decides awardees for regional transportation projects, not only just those by cars, but also those by bicycles and pedestrians and bridges. So there's an opportunity for a Clayton resident to serve as our representative on that Citizens Advisory Committee. We have uploaded the application online. We have a vacancy. You're not alone on that committee. There are each of the 20 agencies, public agencies in Contra Costa, appoint one individual to that. The meetings do require attendance. They're held once a month. I believe they're in the evening, however. And while volunteerism often comes with rewards other than monetary, this one does pay for transportation back and forth to the meeting. So if there's anyone that is listening to this, or anyone that's in the audience other than staff or others that have a desire to serve in a public
a venue. It's actually quite interesting if you're interested in those types of projects and interfacing. You get to know other people from other cities as well. And so we invite you to go online, look at the application, look at the requirements, and if you feel so compelled, or even by arm twisting, please fill out an application and send it to us. The appointment is by the City Council, and we're eager to have people step forward and fill that void. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you, sir. The city council now will give us each an opportunity to report on their liaisons to various regional committees and government commissions. Councilmember Shuey.
I don't think I have anything of vital importance to impart.
Thank you.
So I attended the Trails and Landscaping Committee meeting on June 15th as an alternate council representative, as Vice Mayor Hayden was unable to attend. I think we already heard the report for that, but I do want to mention, sort of in the spirit of volunteerism, that it is a citizens oversight committee that essentially oversees the prop, or Measure H, that was just renewed for another 10-year period. And they are a couple people short on their committee members, so if there are additional community members who'd like to volunteer at the Trails and Landscaping Committee, I think you can get an application from our city clerk.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Pierce.
Well, I missed our last meeting earlier this month because I was at a conference, so I'll start there. I was at the National Association of Regional Councils meeting, which is a group that was organized to represent on the national level and allow groups to meet on the national level. Groups like the Association of Bay Area Governments, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, representatives from the California Association of Councils of Government. Also, that's where I actually met the national folks a couple of years ago. So I went to their annual conference this year. We were actually the host agency for it in Monterey. And I made the mistake of staying for the business meeting. And they say if you don't show up, you get volunteered for things. I showed up.
The opposite.
Anyway, so I'm now on the national board for the National Association of Regional Councils. And it's really interesting to see the differences in regional councils across the country. There are a lot of councils of government. We think of ABAG and MTC. There are several that are 10,000 people, 4 cities, and they're part of the national group too. So it was interesting to see the variations and how other groups around the country operate. There are also ones like New York is a council of governments and things like that. So we're not the only ones that are big, but we are one of the biggest. Anyway, so that was very interesting. Also attended 2 of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority meetings. Passing the budget is always a good thing, nice to have it balanced. And the Contra Costa Transportation Authority has done some things that I will talk about when we talk about our budget as well. But they've, like we have earned the Excellence in Accounting Awards that Kevin has now brought to our own community, and we've had them at CCTA now for 5 years running, so that's pretty cool. Attended many meetings of the Association of Bay Area Governments. We had an administrative committee retreat for the executive board. We had a general assembly of all of the cities and the counties in the Bay Area where we passed our budget and work plan. I think there was 1 no vote out of the 101 cities and 9 counties. I also had the honor of signing the contracts for service where ABAG will be contracting with MTC to provide all of our staffing, and all of the Association of Bay Area Government employees all of the represented employees are transitioning over to MTC on July 1st. Also signed the memorandum of understanding with the MTC Commission so that we will look forward over the next couple of years at how we might actually merge the 2 agencies. The staff will be merged as of July 1st, but the governance will stay separate for now. So we still have a separate board, but the merged staff will provide all of the staff support for both agencies. So we are halfway there. So that's exciting. Also had half a dozen meetings of the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. Had the honor of attending our wonderful Memorial Day service, which was probably better attended than we've seen in a good long time, I think. It was a nice warm day and a lovely service.
It was.
Attended a California Association of Council of Governments meetings, a Transpac meeting, which is one of our local Central County transportation folks where the cities get together. And we actually have a project coming home to Clayton because we figured out how to spend our money right. And so we have some crosswalks that will have illuminated markers that will be installed before too awfully long. So that's a great project. The Regional Planning Committee of ABAG also met, as did the Bay Area Regional Collaborative. Now, volunteerism is our theme. The 4th of July parade is coming up very soon. We have a 10 a.m. parade, and you cannot miss the start of this parade because we will have a flyover, a jet flyover. Major James Geyser, one of our own young men, not so young anymore, but he has worked his way up. He has been serving in the South Pacific area and all over the world flying. He will be doing a flyover at 10 a.m. sharp to kick off the parade. So the lights and sirens on the fire truck and the police car might be a little quiet compared to the jet. And if any of you noticed it about a week or so ago, a little over a week ago, one afternoon, there was a very low-flying jet, and people wondered what it was for. That was a practice run. And so they...
Not for bombing or strafing.
No. So anyway, but that's exciting. So come on down to the 4th of July. We still need volunteers. Easy jobs, just the day of. Come on down. You can still have your breakfast. We'll give you a short assignment, something to do. Give us a hand. It's a great day.
Thank you. Well, I had a few activities over the past couple of weeks. First of all, last June 7th, I attended the Contra Costa Water District monthly meeting. They continue to oversee the lessening of water restriction activities that took place during the drought. They have a lot of projects that they're working on and doing. In fact, one of our residents is a member of that board. On the 8th, the next day, I went up to Sacramento to attend the League of California Cities quarterly meeting where I sit on the Public Safety Policy Committee, and that is a real interesting group of individuals. Most of the people that serve on that have either current or former law enforcement or public safety service in the fire districts and so forth, and they keep a close eye on the legislation that continues to be initiated and tried to move through the legislature. But some of the things that we have taken a look at, for example, the AT&T company wants to eliminate their landline service. And we have been putting a lot of restriction and holding back on that simply because in certain areas within the state of California, with AT&T's desire to go all wireless, they have not been able to identify specifically in some locales precisely where a cellular phone exists. And as a result, unfortunately, some individuals have either not received the emergency service response that they needed or in fact did not survive that. And they're trying to work on a system that will be able to identify down to about less than 100 feet where that cell phone is. And so therefore the Public Safety Policy Committee always puts off endorsing any legislation that until that can be resolved, which is at least a couple of years out. Concert in the Grove on the 10th, we had a great concert out here, a lot of people. In fact, the attendance is starting to increase, and this Saturday is another wonderful concert. 14th, our first Clayton Classic car show was held. We had more than 25 vehicles. We look forward to the next one on the 28th. Look forward to having people come out. And literally, we have a number of residents that bring out their vintage restored vehicles. On the 15th, attended the County Connection Board. That's another one that's got a lot of interesting things about it, including the transition from many of the gas-driven buses to more fuel-efficient and electric or battery-powered buses. In fact, I'll be attending a couple of meetings down in Livermore where the Gillig Corporation manufactures these very futuristic buses that have no requirement for gasoline-type engines. And we'll be getting a new delivery for Contra Costa County in July. Finally, the last thing that had the pleasure of attending was on Saturday night, the 17th. Father Richard Mangini from St. Bonaventure's Parish had a retirement dinner that was supposed to be 400 people, but it would turn out to be 560. And I want to, first of all, thank Sandy Johnson from our city staff for coordinating our attendance. We had well representation there. Councilmember Pierce and Steve, her husband, were there. Myself and my wife were there. And, of course, the city manager and his wife, Kim, were also there. And it was a well-attended event. 560 people, crowded to the rafters in there in that one. Actually, I think they had 2 ballrooms put together there. But it was a great event. And Father Mangini is retiring after 21 service at St. Bonaventure's Church here in our neighboring community of Concord. That's it. That continues or concludes all of the reports from all of our activities. Item 8 on the agenda is for public comment on non-agenda items. Those are an opportunity for individuals in the audience to come forward and speak on any item that is not on the agenda for tonight. Anyone wish to speak? You have 3 minutes to address your issue. And I see nobody coming forward. We'll close that portion of the meeting. We go on to item 9, public hearings. And the first item is number 9A, which is a public hearing on the proposed City of Clayton budget for fiscal year 2017-18. It's 5-year capital improvement project budget, and that's for fiscal 2017 to 2022, and the establishment of a pension contribution stabilization fund. Mr. Finance Manager Kevin, please give us your report.
Diaz. So, at the previous council meeting on June 6th, staff provided a presentation with an in-depth analysis of the proposed budget for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018. And the purpose of this presentation is more to provide a summary of the highlights for the actual public hearing and proposed adoption of that budget. So looking at the first slide here, we have a 5-year summary of the citywide budgets. And as you can see on the far left column of the numbers, we have a total proposed city budget for 18 of approximately $12.455 million. Of that amount, the lion's share is attributable to the general fund appropriations, which makes up approximately 35.7% of the total city budget at $4.455 million. And really, if you look, there's a slight decrease from the prior year to the current year, and that's really attributable to some non-recurring factors, such as last year we had the repayment of the fire station note from the successor agency, which was a big win for the city, which is not a recurring expenditure of the successor agency. And then, of course, we had the large 2016 arterial street program funded by a Measure J grant, which was conducted this fiscal year and concluded as well. We anticipate total conclusion by June 30th of 2017. So the following slide provides a summary by fund of total revenues of the city. And looking at this pie chart, really what stands out is 2 funds compose approximately 79.4% of all city budgeted revenues. Of course, this chart excludes, as every year, the fiduciary funds and the capital improvement program below, because those are kind of non-recurring in nature and not generally considered part of the ongoing operations of the city. So when we look at general fund revenues, which are the largest share at approximately 63.72%, the majority of general fund revenues comes from secured property taxes, from our 1% share, local share of the Prop 13 allocation from the county, as well as the secured property taxes from the property tax in lieu of vehicle license fees from the state, and then sales taxes, of course, and franchise fees. So the sum of all those four categories of income actually make up just over 62% of general fund revenues, and those are the ones that staff tracks and provided an in-depth analysis on in the previous presentation, which are growing at a healthy, steady pace. The second largest explanation for total city budget revenues is the landscape maintenance district, accounting for 15.71% of total revenues, and the landscape maintenance district accounts for essentially the Melrose Community Facilities District, which holds the restricted parcel tax for the operations and maintenance of the landscape maintenance district, which was approved or extended by the local electorate in June of 2016 by well over the 2/3 vote that we needed, as everyone's aware. So it's a huge win for the city operations. Turning over to the revenue side, or sorry, the expenditure side of the budget, this also excludes the CIP fund and fiduciary funds. Really, three funds explain the huge majority of the expenditures of the city and the operations and our goals. So three funds actually make up 80.4% of total appropriations of the city operational budget. The largest, of course, just like the revenues, is the general fund, which makes up 53.54%. Sorry, it's kind of hard to read that percentage on here. And that's the general fund. And really, the majority of those appropriations pertain to the police department at 53.3% of the general fund budget. So 53.3 cents of every dollar spent in the general fund is projected to be for the police department for public safety functions. Looking over at the second largest fund accounting for appropriations of the city budget, that's the landscape maintenance district. And one thing I forgot to reiterate on, which our member from the Trails and Landscape Committee did say, is going back to revenues, even though we did have a CPI growth rate of 3.78%, which was the inflationary factor from April to April, it was capped at 3%, which was a written restriction in the ballot measure. So the growth was only by 3%. This also did increase in appropriations from 17 to 18, taking up a larger percentage, and that's largely due to some new projects that are planned for next fiscal year, one of which is a large 20-week replanting project in the medians and throughout the landscape district, and the other one is the removal of 18 large eucalyptus trees in 3 specific open space areas in the city. So this is what probably some would say is the most important slide of the presentation, is really what's the bottom line for the general fund. So in the proposed fiscal year 2018 budget, the general fund budget is a balanced budget, and it's projected to have a budgetary surplus of $10,830 with a projected general fund balance as of fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018 of $5.504 million. One important thing to note about that is even before we start the fiscal year as of June 30th, 2017, we have $5.493 million in general fund equity, which actually amounts to a healthy 1.23 times the size of the proposed budget for next fiscal year, which is a phenomenal feat. So if we had to, in an emergency scenario, we could operate on reserves alone, although nobody obviously plans for that, but for a city of our size, that's a very healthy and promising benchmark. The proposed budget includes two of the higher level changes that I wanted to cover in this presentation, one of which is a change to the staffing and structure of the Public Works Department. And really, the change that we're proposing for the structure is threefold. The first being the deletion of the second maintenance supervisor position. The second is to elevate the city's 2 experienced and tenured maintenance 1 workers to maintenance worker 2 levels. And the third is to rename the existing lead worker position to a senior maintenance worker. Now, the goal of these 3 proposed changes is really to recognize the achievements of the city's dedicated and tenured maintenance 1 staff that have been here for many years and do great service to the city, and as well as to improve efficiency of the department by making the visible lines of hierarchy extremely notable. So now we have 1 supervisor. Basically, the buck stops with 1 person, and it trickles downwards, which we all feel will be a benefit to that department. The following slide provides a summary of basically the historical summary of pension contributions for the citywide budget, not just the general fund, as well as our projections for the next 4 fiscal years. So the proposed budget does include a recommendation by staff and the city manager to establish a new pension contribution stabilization fund, and that's going to be an internal service fund, which, similar to the SURF, which we have, which is the Capital Equipment Replacement Fund and the Self-Insurance Fund, it's kind of like the purpose of that fund is to serve the governmental funds, such as the general fund, the landscape district, and help mitigate and plan for future costs. SURF being for capital costs, self-insurance being for risk management cases, and this being for unknown uncertainties involved with pension contributions. So one of the things to point out, there's 3 variances that we can point out in the chart. Is the first being right here in next fiscal year in 2018, you can see a spike in projected pension contribution costs to CalPERS of approximately $73,000, and that spike is largely attributable to 2 factors. One of which is that in fiscal year 2017, unfortunately, the Public Works and the Police Department experienced a little bit of short staffing and some attrition. So actual pension contribution costs came in less than we projected. And the other factor is, of course, we have this relatively new concept that CalPERS created for the fixed dollar unfunded actuarial liability billings. So we did experience some savings in prior years from 12 down to 15 due to attrition and PEPRA going into effect and our workforce moving into the new Tier 2 and Tier 3 categories. However, CalPERS said, hey, wait, hold on, we're not collecting enough to address. I don't want to say they didn't think it through all the way, but they didn't anticipate they weren't collecting enough. So they turned around and charged participating agencies with a fixed dollar amount to address the unfunded liability that we could not escape. So the important thing to note also is with that spike, the city was able to propose a balanced budget, and the general fund and the other city funds were able to absorb that because of healthy revenue growth. Then looking at 2019, we anticipate a decline of approximately $82,000 in savings, which primarily results from the maturity of the public safety side fund with CalPERS, which is positive news. But then going back into looking into 2020, 2 years from now, we have a projected increase of $94,000 from 19 to 20. And that's really a result of 2 things. One being known published increases from CalPERS for those fixed dollar UAL billings that we unfortunately cannot escape. And then, of course, in December of 2016, the CalPERS board voted to reduce the discount rate, which is the long-term projected return rate, from 7.5% to 7% over 3 years. And the result of that is they need to, if they expect to collect less from the investment earnings, then they have to recover that from either the employees and or the employer. So because of these risks, staff is including in the proposed budget this new concept for a pension contribution stabilization fund. And this new internal service fund is being budgeted to be funded in 2018 with a transfer from the general fund of $110,000. And that $110,000 was originally earmarked by the City Council in the current fiscal year, 2017, for a revenue shortfall we were expected to receive in 18 from a California Department of Finance clawback with the way that they're approving things with the successor agency in our recognized obligation payment schedule process. So luckily for us, that did not materialize as we anticipated. So now staff is redirecting that $110,000 earmark to this fund. And I should also note for the public that that $110,000 was part of a surplus that the general fund reported in fiscal year 2016 of approximately $203,000. So it's not like we're overspending. Those were excess unallocated reserves that the City Council had identified to use for specific purposes. And now we're just recommending the redirection of it to that. So it's staff's goals and hopes that this new internal service fund will provide a long-term planning tool helping to mitigate the risk of fluctuations in future pension contribution costs to the ongoing general fund budget. So really it's kind of taking a one-year budget and turning it into multi-year planning, which is, we really think will help address some of these issues. This slide provides a summary of the GAN limit. So in 1978, Prop 4 was established, which created a cap on what government agencies can appropriate annually in their budgets. So it's basically the tax, and it's referred to as the tax and spend cap. So the GAN limit is calculated by using the prior year figure, which is the 9.999 million up there, and adjusting that for population growth figures published by the state of California, as well as inflationary figures published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics and then reinforced by the Department of Finance. So in the prior year, that figure of $9.9 million, that was reviewed by our independent auditors, and they did issue a separate report on that, identifying that there was no exceptions resulting from that dollar amount. So it is reliable. So ultimately, when we apply the growth factors, we get a fiscal year 2018 appropriations limit of $10.485 million. And one key thing to note about that dollar amount is in our proposed budget, the estimated appropriations subject to that GAN limit fall well short of what the cap is, to the extent of it's only 43.5% of what the GAN limit would ultimately allow for if such revenues did exist in the community. So that results in that annual tax gap in bold green on the bottom of the 5.920. So this ultimately shows to the public, yes, we're in compliance with the laws, and we're operating what I would say on somewhat of a shoestring budget, and we're spending the money wisely, essentially. That concludes the presentation on the adopted budget proposal, and I will pass the item back to Mayor Diaz for discussion and public hearing.
Thank you. Any questions from the council at this time? This is a public hearing item, so we'd like to open up for comment by the public, and please come forward. You have 3 minutes, and you may state your name and then give us your input. And seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing portion and bring it back to the council. Yes, ma'am, excuse me. I wasn't looking, I was
That's okay.
reading.
That's okay. That's okay. Good job, Kevin, and Gary, in putting this together. I think the concept of the reserve fund to hedge against the PERS increases is a really good one. One of the things that the Contra Costa Transportation Authority has done is years ago, when we have a different opportunity because we can actually issue bonds and we had a huge savings because the interest rate dropped so dramatically that we actually prepaid the PERS and actually are making 7% on the prepayment, which is a really good deal. So, and I know that several other agencies are even looking at the idea of going out and issuing debt at a rate that is low enough to prepay the PERS stuff, because then you invest that money at PERS for 7% and you pay 2.5% on it in the debt that you're issuing. And so people are figuring out that there are other ways to do this, but this is going to be really dramatic if we don't plan for it. So I really appreciate the fact that our staff is being forward-thinking and looking at how to get ahead of this curve, because there are some cities in this county who are talking about 2 years from now, maybe upside down, because they won't be able to make those payments. And it's a pretty scary thing. So I am very proud of our city that we, as always, are thinking ahead and making not only a balanced budget, but planning for the future when the costs are going to go up. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay.
Well,
What's
if-
the council's pleasure
Then
on
I
this?
will move that we adopt the resolution approving the city budget for fiscal year 2017-18 and the 5-year CIP budget for fiscal years 2017 to 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those signify support by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? None? Ordered. Thank you.
I would also move adoption of the resolution establishing the Pension Contribution Stabilization Fund.
Second.
Moved and seconded to establish the Pension Contribution Stabilization Fund. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those signify support by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordered.
Good job, Kevin.
Yes,
Good
thank you.
report.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, everyone.
Very good.
And the city manager, absolutely. That was kind of a brainchild of the city manager, Mr. Gary Napper, as well. So a lot of great input from Gary, Mr. Napper, the city manager, and our budget subcommittee, as staff and the city council.
Yeah.
So it's great to be a part of this team. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, great. Okay. Moving on to action items. 10A, the council is now going to discuss and determine the citizen appointments for 2 vacancies on the Clayton Planning Commission for two-year terms appointed for office by July 1st, or to July 1st through June, or 2/17 to June 30 of 2019. And we had 2 of the 3 applicants here present earlier this evening, all very well presented and very interested in me serving on the commission. We also had one current member whose term expired, Peter Cloven, who did not was unable to attend tonight, but did submit his application as to be considered for reappointment and for the full term, because he was just filling the end of Tuya Catalano's term, and just did that, and now has completed that, and now has applied for the full 2-year term. What other comments? I felt that we've had great applicants, that the people that have applied are very interested in doing this commission work. They have the interest, the background, and any one of them would make or all of them would make a great contribution to the Planning Commission. Anything else?
Well, I guess my comment would be, I'm not aware of any problems with our appointee to Tuya's spot, and I don't think you necessarily, because he had a pre-planned vacation, we didn't interview him, we don't want to Wally Pip him. So in my mind, I would think that he would be appropriate to be reselected for that spot. And then it comes down to a very tough choice, in my mind, between 2 very dedicated citizens in the city that both have done amazing public service already and are looking for a next step up and a new challenge. And unfortunately, one of them's not going to get that, and we hope that doesn't discourage them. But I'm not sure on how to pick those 2. So at least initially, I think, though, that we really, in my mind, are looking at 2 people for 1 spot, because I think we ought to reappoint Peter.
Oh, yeah, and I concur with having Mr. Cloven come back to be appointed for a full term. He's got some exceptional qualifications and background, and has been involved in a number of activities. So again, it's going to be a tough decision to select that one other slot and between the 2 remaining candidates, at least in my mind. And I will allow for any other comment.
Well, I certainly concur with the beginning part. I think Mr. Cloven, I know he's out of town and he had a pre-planned vacation for some time. So, but I haven't seen anything yet that would lead me to think that he can continue as a planning commission. So I would certainly be supportive of choosing him. And then I think, like Dave said, I think it's a tough choice between the 2 other candidates. And I think both of them would serve very well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, somebody's got to take stand here. And I want to thank Russ Eddy and AJ Shapiro both for applying, because they both would make fabulous planning commissioners. Russ has served us as a reserve police officer for a very long time, and is looking for something new in his contribution to the city, and has lots of time as a retiree and could do that. AJ is newer to the city, but has been incredibly involved with the Trails and Landscape Committee and lots of the other community activities. Lots of energy there too. You know what? I'm just going to nominate that we appoint or move that we appoint Peter Cloven and AJ Shapiro to the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Any discussion on those recommendations? Is there a second?
I would second that, and I had an opportunity last week to see Mr. Shapiro in action at the Trails and Landscaping Committee, and I haven't met him previously too much, and I haven't met Mr. Eddy as much either, but I think Mr. Shapiro would do very well.
I don't disagree with that. I think it's a good choice either way, and it's really.
I think we have to find another job for Mr. Eddy, though.
Yes.
Yeah, and
We
I
need
do
to
feel
find another
badly.
position. We don't have enough of them to go around right now, but we need to find him a spot.
But I think both of them may not have the experience that some of our past planning commissioners have had, but that's not a bad thing, to learn on the job and to do it, and they both have the commitment. And I have no problem with appointing AJ and Peter.
And I would concur with that. In fact, what I would suggest, if we validate and approve the two nominees, then there is a spot for Mr. Eddy to join us at the, and recommend that he consider the Trails and Landscape Committee, because there at least one opening there.
And they've got 2 vacancies.
Absolutely. So there's an opportunity to get involved in that. So I'm going to support as well the recommendation we have. We've got a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I might, just for technicality, I think I heard the motion was to adopt the resolution appointing Peter Cloven and AJ or Anthony Shapiro.
Right.
That's what I heard.
That's exactly what I said.
Anyway, and so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all will signify support by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordered and welcome. And we will definitely.
Congratulations.
Yes. And we will definitely follow up with Russ Eddy to make sure he sees openings that are on the Trails and Landscape.
Well, we've actually talked about others too tonight, so there's lots of places that we
Right,
might be able to
exactly.
use them, so.
Exactly. Okay, next is item 10B. That's to consider a request by Permco Engineering and Management, a contract city engineer services, for a consumer price index rate increase since 2006 of 29.6%. Of the city engineer's basic services, 36% of the city projects rate, and 30% of the third-party project, 28%. And I see the city manager, or engineer is here. He can, Rick, will you please, let's hear from you.
Well, for the first time in a lot of years, I'm here as the president of Permco Engineering, and not as the city engineer. I'd like to begin by objecting to this description of our rate increase request in the city council agenda as increases since 2006 of 29.6 on the city engineer's basic services, 30% on the city project rates, and 30% on the third-party rates. When I questioned the city manager about why he listed the increase for only my position instead of the average increase for all positions that Permco filled, his reply was, when comparing for contract services One looks at the principal being contracted, as we did, excuse me, as we did at Mala. To insert an average for all services would be misleading when council members and the public will look at the rate for the primary service, in this case, my certification as a professional engineer. To me, such logic is faulty in that with the city attorney, you are essentially hiring an individual representing their firm, while PERMCO is filling several positions, each of which will have some impact on the costs of the city. Excuse me. When the Oakhurst Country Club development and its accompanying $55 million benefit assessment district was approved, the city council realized the city was going to have to either hire many professional employees, along with providing office space, vehicles, furniture, and equipment, or contract with a private firm to supply and oversee the needed personnel. The council did not want to burden the city's budget and general fund with significant employee obligations and decided to contract with PERMCO, not Rick Angersani, for the provision of professional employees on an as-needed basis. As part of the contract, it was agreed that I would act as city engineer. Therefore, I believe PERMCO's proposed rate increases should be based on the average of all the positions provided instead of the increase in a single position. As shown on the spreadsheets, there we go. For the retainer rates, the basic city engineering services, we're looking for an average increase of 29.5%. For city projects, the average increase works out to 28.6%. For outside parties, the increase works out to be 28.5%. It should be noted that since our last rate increase in 2006, the Bay Area CPI increase is 31.45%, 2 to 3% above our proposed increases. The information provided by the city manager included a listing of payments PERMCO's received over the last 9 fiscal years, as compiled by the finance department. The payments for basic services of total $790,000 and change for an average of approximately $87,800 per year. It was not broken out, but approximately $20,000 per year was for clerical work, phones, filing, tracking of construction permits, as well as minor inspection and CAD work, the base maps, various exhibits, etc. Therefore, PERMCO received approximately $68,000 per year for my services. We surveyed all of the cities We surveyed all the cities in Contra Costa County that had city engineers and found that the annual salary and benefits cost for a city engineer was a little over $208,000. Our proposed increase of 29.5% would increase the average annual cost to $113,701, still well below the average city engineer salary. Going back to the original listing of payments, we received $943,900 for CIP projects, etc. The cost of the projects completed or out to bid totals about $7.5 million, of which PERMCO's costs were at 12.5% of the total project costs. I can assure the council, and I am sure that with our extensive experience with transportation projects throughout the county, council member peers can confirm that this is an extremely low percentage compared to what other agencies are paying for similar services. Our proposed increase of 28.6% would increase this percentage to approximately 16.1%, which we believe is still much lower than what other agencies normally pay. Excuse me. The bill to deposits are basically just charges against prepaid deposits by third-party individuals. The recovered from The recovered from deposits percent had me really confused until Kevin explained it was not an indication of uncollected deposits, but a calculated ratio of billed deposits amounts to the total paid PERMCO by the city. Anyway, to assure the city council that, and not to mention ourselves, that our proposed hourly rates were reasonable, we surveyed several cities in the Bay Area to determine what rates by position they were currently paying outside consultants. As you can see on the spreadsheet there, our proposed hourly rates vary from 60 to 80% of the average rates paid by other agencies, with the exception of survey rates, which are generally governed by union salaries. We were able to offer these lower rates due to our experience, efficiency, and our relatively low overhead costs. PERMCO has been honored to represent and serve the city of Clayton during the last 30 years. We have always placed the interests of the cities first, even ahead of our better paying private clients. The truth is, we've been able to maintain our rates for the city unchanged for the last 10 years because we have been able to cover our overhead costs from income paid by our outside clients, even through the Great Recession. However, the city projects for the last few months have required the dedication of a significant portion of PERMCO's time and resources. We anticipate this demand to continue for the foreseeable future, and I'm sure you realize that our existing 2006 billing rates alone will not cover our costs and overhead, much less allow PERMCO to, God forbid, make a profit. Therefore, we must now respectfully request the immediate approval of our submitted rate increases. Thank you for your attention, and I am ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions from City Council?
Yeah. Which one first? When I'm looking at your comparison chart here, and then I'm looking at, and I can't get them all together in one place. Your proposed rates versus the other cities. I'm trying to figure out how you actually came up with the calculations you did that are in the chart in our packet. The City of Clayton rate increase request that has Danville, Concord, Orinda, El Cerrito, Hercules, and Pinole on it.
This one, yes.
Yeah, that one. Because I'm trying to figure out where you got the information for what those numbers are represented for the other cities. Because frankly, I didn't come up with those numbers when I looked online for what they're actually paying.
We contacted either the HR departments or the city engineers, and they gave us these unit prices.
Okay, is this what they bill out to people?
This is what they pay the consultants.
Oh, it's what they pay their consultants.
Right.
It's not what their in-house city
No.
engineer makes.
No, this is what they're paying their consultants.
Okay, that was not clear at all.
Oh, okay.
Okay, okay.
And what they're paying the city engineers is in that other chart,
Yeah, that's why I was.
the 208,000 average.
Right. Okay. That's the one that's the green and black one.
Yes.
That's what
The
the
ones
actual
in-
city engineers are paid.
Yeah, the ones in green are not
Okay.
actual city engineers. They're just positions that are doing the city engineer's work, but not being paid for it.
Okay, so the ones that were in our packet before, that you said are what they pay their consultants, those are the fully loaded prices
Yes.
of what they pay the consultants?
Right.
Okay.
Well, so the difference between this and this chart is what then?
These are employees,
These are the in-house employees,
right, with salaries and benefits.
right? Okay, that makes more sense. This, yeah, this chart is closer to what I was finding when I did my online searches. Wow.
Well, while you're thinking of that, what did you get paid total from all the city work last year? What was your total?
257,000.
Okay, so go back to the other chart. No, the other one. So these are paid employees that made less than what you were paid?
No.
Right? You were paid 257.
Permco was paid 257,000.
That's for everybody.
For all the work.
Okay, and did you break that down for us and who you paid with that money?
I'm sorry,
257, what went out, what did you pay your employees on that?
what difference does that make?
Well, I'm looking at your chart, and the employees at, say, Moraga, senior engineer, made $100,000.
Yeah.
You made 257.
did
Now, I
make
assume that that's not all of
257.
yours. Right,
I did not make 257,000.
okay.
I paid for several employees with that, paid for the office overhead with that, paid for the equipment, et cetera.
Okay. And did you provide us with how much you made last year after doing all of that?
Mean profit?
Uh-huh. And salary? Because I know how the game's played. I mean, you can give yourself a salary and not make a profit.
I couldn't give myself a full salary,
Okay. And what would you consider a full salary?
12,000 to 13,000 a month.
Okay, if I do my gazentas,
150.
Say 150,000 a year.
okay. And so part of this request is to get you to what you would consider being able to pay yourself that full salary, right?
Part of it,
Okay.
certainly.
Sure. And I mean, listen, I get your arguments on the CPI and you haven't had a rate increase and all that. But like Julie, I was looking at some of the numbers and not, we're maybe apples and oranges in terms of how we were looking at it, but that's why we ask questions. So, sorry, Julie, go ahead.
No, because I'm trying to frame my question, and I'm seeing new charts that are confusing me. I think this is going to need more discussion than just tonight.
While you're looking at that, just for clarity on the chart, the fiscal year 2017 is the fiscal year to date. So
Right.
that's the current fiscal year we are in right now. That has not concluded, so that number will rise through June 30th. But when you go down one to 2016, that's what was paid to Permco in payments for the previous fiscal year.
Which is June to June.
Which is July to June.
July
Yeah,
to-
but June's not done yet for
Right.
what Kevin calls fiscal year 2017.
Okay. Any other?
I guess one of the questions is, I know we've had, and you said your staff has been really busy working on just city stuff and hasn't had time to do that much outside work. And we've seen, the billings come through, and we see the number of hours that are on there, so I get that. I guess one of the questions is it getting to a point that it's a struggle to keep up with the city work with the size firm that you have?
No, because I can always hire another engineer. I hesitate to do that because I don't want to drive up the cost to the city.
Right.
Right.
Well, and that's, yeah, okay.
I hate to say it, but I think I'm with Julie, and I apologize. I was able to look at this some, but I'm not, frankly, I didn't give it the time that I wanted to, just because my work is kicking me.
I understand that.
But I'm thinking that I might need to, I think we need to look at this maybe and have some time to corroborate, not that again, your figures that you got are arrived at a certain way. I'm thinking I might want some staff checking to make sure we're apples and apples, not apples and oranges.
Well, actually, I did some online checking, and this black and green chart actually does confirm pretty close to what I found in going through the transparency.gov or whatever it was.
That's where we got it.
Yeah. For the numbers and doing some calculations on overhead rates and things like that. I know through Caltrans tries to stay to a 14% cost of a project for their overhead, for their engineering cost, and we frown when it goes anything higher than that. It's been creeping up, and we knock it back down again.
On that, though, Caltrans projects are a little bit bigger than the City of Clayton projects.
That's true, although we have some through CCTA that we manage, and we keep our costs down too, and they're pretty small. So I think one of the things that I want to look at, and it's good that you bring this up, because it's looking at all that we're handling. One of the things that Transpac has been talking about extensively recently, and I was asked to take back to CCTA, was the idea of consolidating the paving projects throughout the county, or groups of cities going together, and having CCTA manage the paving contracts for us. They would still have to be defined by local staff to what it is we want to do, but they would go ahead and aggregate the contracts to help us get more efficient pricing, and they would help manage the contractors to make sure that they're done well. And I was asked at Transpac at our last meeting to follow up on that with CCTA. CCTA has actually been offering to do that for some time, and was met with some resistance in some cities, but they're breaking through, and a lot of cities are thinking that might be a good idea. There are other ideas around for cost efficiencies for some of the projects that we're working on. I guess the other thing that I have to look at is the difference in price between hiring a firm outside, whether it's Rick's firm or another firm, or whether to have somebody in-house. Because the in-house salary and benefits looks better on the surface, but then there's that CalPERS tail. So there's some analysis that I think we need to have some time to go over and figure out how we want to address these things, because it's not simple. And Rick has done a yeoman's job for us for years and years and years. But I think we would not be doing our job for the community and our fiscal responsibility if we didn't really look at all of our options. This is a big increase over what we have been paying.
Right, not that we shouldn't have, maybe there should have been adjustment, but
Well,
what you're saying, budget-wise, that's concerning, that's going to be a big jump potentially to our annual budget. And I agree with you that at least consideration, whether or not we just got to do our due diligence, just like with everything else.
I think that's exactly it.
So I don't unfortunately have some of the institutional history on this one, but I am curious, and I don't know if it's a question to you or if it's a question to the city staff, but sort of on the CPI increases, so when you look at the percentage over, 10, 11 years, that is a huge percentage. But I'm curious to know, so what do cities typically do? Do they do sort of annual increases, or do they look at the contract every so many years, or what? I would be curious to know if we compare it to other cities, what's the typical practice? And I don't know.
The contract would have allowed annual reviews. We chose not to ask for it because we knew what kind of shape the city was in money-wise. So we just kind of put it off. to the point where I can't put it off anymore.
Got it. And do you know, I guess, Gary, what
I don't
cities
know.
do?
I haven't done that kind of research, but I think that, there's an example here with Best and Krieger and Mollis here, and I think she was initially hired, what year?
2011,
2011, and I think you waited how many years before making the request?
was it last year?
Yeah, just last year.
Yeah.
In terms of that for the adjustment. I also included, just as a reference, and it's not up there because these are Mr. Angrasani's, PowerPoints, but I used a reference in terms of what, for instance, city employees comparatively were making, and as you well know, there were a number of years, I think 5, where city employees actually didn't receive cost of living adjustments because of the budget situation, and actually took true pay decreases because there were work furloughs
Right.
that amounted about 4%. So,
Per year.
again, the idea was just to give a lay of the land for the council's consideration.
Anything else from the council members?
Not questions, no.
Okay, because this is a public, an action item. I want to open it up for any comment from the public before we take any further steps. So at this time, if anybody of the general public wishes to address the city council on this matter, please come forward. You will have 3 minutes to address it. Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. And I think the sense that I'm getting is that there is a huge amount of information here and data that needs some further honing down or analysis before we finally make a general recommendation on how to proceed. So unless I'm hearing, or not sensing this, we need to, charter a study session, a study group, or what do we think needs to get done to proceed on this?
I think we need another meeting. Some of the information that Rick brought in to the dais tonight is stuff that we had not had a chance to see before. And it is a lot of numbers. And I don't like numbers particularly, but I do study them very carefully, and I do take this very seriously. And I want to be fair to both Rick and to our public, frankly, and do the right thing for our constituents. So I need more time to study this. I need more time to think about what direction we need to go in and to analyze what our next steps are.
Okay.
And I would hope that city staff could help us to put that together and look at what we're getting for what we're paying and how we deliver the services for engineering for the city. I think that's something we need to analyze and evaluate where we've been and where we're going.
And also, if I may add, there was a comment you made, Julie, that maybe, is there a comparison for similar services from another entity that we could look at and make some value judgments based upon seeing what maybe one or so other comparative firms would offer for these kinds of services?
Exactly
I think
right.
that would be very, very helpful.
That could
Right.
help to support Rick's request.
Right.
Well, right, and I think it's appropriate for Rick to have come to us. It has been a long time, and just like, employees and have gone up and down depending on our budgets and stuff. That one thing I didn't really get a chance to look at that I wanted to and talk to Gary about was the impact on what's this going to do to our budget in light of what we also just saw with our continuing CalPERS debacle and, ratcheting up. We've always done our due diligence on making sure we can afford that and keep a balanced budget. And it may be in the packet, and it may be part of what Rick gave or what Gary gave, but figuring out, some of your work gets paid through by the applicant, and it doesn't impact our budget, and how much would. So I think that I would need to at least be able to sit down and figure that out and look at it from staff's perspective. Hey, what do you think this is going to increase each year if we do this? And figure out what the best scenario is in that
You know,
regard.
and it's related and it's not. It's, you mentioned the idea of finding out if there's other companies that have comparable kind of rate scales, and we don't know that. I know there are a lot of other engineering firms out there that do this kind of contract work for cities. I get assaulted by them every time I go to a League of California Cities meeting. There's somebody in a booth and handing me a card and saying, please use us. I do know that at several of the agencies where I sit, we have policies about contracting out and looking at the contracts periodically. One of the things that Randy Iwasaki likes to say at CCTA is we do a contract for 3 years and then everybody's open for it. We don't sit on a contract forever and ever anymore. We like to keep the contractors hungry and giving us good prices and that sort of thing. I'm not suggesting that's where we're going, but it probably would be a good idea to at least do our homework
Absolutely.
and make sure that what we're getting is appropriate. So I hate to make you wait, Rick, for an answer, but I think it's only the right thing for us to do to take a look at that.
And I just one question too, because Rick predated me getting on the council. I don't know if he predated you.
He came the year after
Okay.
on the council,
But,
yeah.
but why did we decide to go independent contractor versus in-house at the time? Was that?
We
a
only
dec-
needed part-time at the
We
time.
only needed part-time, okay.
We didn't have to pay the overhead and all of that.
Right,
so.
okay.
Yeah, Rick came in, what, 86?
Wow,
Yeah,
it's a long time.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, I guess at this point, the direction is clear. We need some time to analyze these numbers, also to see if there is at least another firm or two that might be able to be used as a comparator to see if this is the whichever is the best way to proceed on that. So I'm assuming that is sufficient direction for the city staff to move forward, and that we would then hold this item over at least until our next regular scheduled meeting, which is not until July 18, if that's sufficient time. I don't know.
Well, that gives us about, what, a month's period of time in which to try to take a look at some of the analysis that you're seeking, or alternative delivery services.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming then we would do a budget adjustment if we needed to after that?
Yeah, I think, in
Depending on
terms
what the
of
decisions
the
are.
basic retainer or the general engineering services, that primarily impacts the general fund.
Right.
The other charges to the CIP, that, comes from
That's a project
different
cost.
sources of funds, not necessarily general fund, although it can be at times
Yeah.
general fund if you have something other than a transportation project, but those will have to be self-sustaining. And of course, the billing to the other parties come from project or land use applicants and whatnot. So the largest one would be in terms of the general engineering services.
Okay. So do we need a formal motion to
No,
to
if
do that?
you basically, if you want to continue to your next meeting, that's really what
Right.
I'm hearing you
And
say.
you've got adequate direction going forward?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
If not, I'll check in with you folks.
Okay. Nothing further on that item?
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Sorry we couldn't do it right away, but we do have to do our due diligence.
Well, item 11 is council items limited to requests and directives for future meetings. Anyone have anything on that?
No, but I do have a question for staff. Have all of the requests or the advisements gone out to folks who are our standard weed abatement violators? We have a few that are habitual ones, so I assume those have gone out and the deadline is now passed, or no?
I'm pausing because notifications to abate one's property is done by the Contra Costa Fire Protection District.
Correct.
So if they have done that, we're assuming that that's the case. Now,
But
we
code
have seen...
enforcement?
Pardon me?
But code enforcement issues?
Well, what
for
we're
that?
doing now in terms of private property, and I just spoke with our community development director today about one piece that's visual from the street, although it's the backside of their property, is there are weeds there, and so we're starting to slay those on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, well, the one you're probably talking about has a back-to-back neighbor with a similar problem. You just can't see through the fences easily.
Oh, okay. So if
They are
people...
peeking over the top.
Yeah, if
And I
people
got
know about
complaints about
those,
it.
then what we want to do is just send that to City Hall or
Okay.
email me if you know those
Because I've had
properties.
several folks walking in the last week, especially since it's been so hot, and saying, who do we talk to? How do we turn these in? Because I'm scared to death they're going to go up like a torch.
Yeah, yeah, and with that in mind, there's a two-pronged approach. One, we can work with the fire district to try to abate those. The other is code enforcement. The stumbling block with code enforcement is that we're limited to seeing, from a public view standpoint. We can't go traipsing across private property into someone else's backyard, so.
Right, okay. Thank
Great.
you.
Okay, so there was nothing on item 11 for a future meeting, and no closed section. We'll now adjourn this city council meeting until, as there's no July 4th or 5th meeting scheduled, we'll adjourn this meeting until our next scheduled meeting, which is Tuesday, July 18th. Meeting closed, and I will turn the meeting over now, the gavel over to the Oakhurst Geological Hazard Abatement District and Chairman David Shuey.
We will call to order the Oakhurst Geologic Hazard Abatement District meeting of June 20th, 2017. Let the record reflect that all are present except Member Hayden. Going to item 2, consent calendar. Do I have a...
Move approval.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak on any item on the agenda or not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. We have no public hearings. We will move to item 5A, action item, presentation and consideration of a resolution to approve the proposed Oakhurst Geologic Hazard Abatement District, or GHAD, budget for fiscal year 2017-18. Set a public hearing to be held on July 18th to consider the levy of the corresponding real property tax assessments in fiscal year 2017-18. District Manager.
He left. didn't he?
Waiting for the district manager.
Yes, he walked out the
think
door.
Laura went chasing him.
I think he left, and I was thinking,
Maybe
Okay.
he forgot. Is he
okay.
gone? Yes, he's gone. Okay.
All
Well,
right.
Mr. Chairman, what you have before you is the budget for the Geological Hazard Abatement District as prepared and proposed is for fiscal year 2017-18. The district property owners in April 2000, approved this Geological Hazard Abatement District to cover routine maintenance and operation needs of the district. The budget that's before you has several components in it, although the amount of levies that occur each year are minuscule. In looking at the budget itself, the income from the property assessments is less than $40,000. It amounts to $39,850. We have included in the budget, or the district manager has, the readings of the Key Lock Way dewatering wells. That was a project that's been completed, and we are looking at, not at this time, but maybe before the rainy season next year, that going back and taking a look at those, as well as the inclinometers and the piezometers that are in those areas, to see if there's been any impact from the wet season. Going forward, really what the budget does is it maintains and sustains the district's existence, which is minuscule. Once again, one of the primary purposes of the district in its formation was to allow the property owners to assess themselves if there were infrastructure needs that were necessary in order to stabilize the movements on the hill. The expenses which for the district, which are shown on page 3, includes an insurance premium for general liability purposes. This year it's been reduced since the claims for hillside movements, there's been enough distance during that time period, and the nominal amount is $7,000 this year. There's a county collection charge that is in this as well, because the county does the collections for the separate district. Engineering services by Permco amounts to $5,000. Mr. Angrasani and his firm essentially take a look at the various needs, answer a lot of questions sometimes from some of the property owners, and rightfully so, particularly those that have moved in and they don't know what this jihad is when it appears on their bill. We have V-ditches up there along the hillsides in various areas to collect the rainwaters and to prevent some of the slippage. Periodically, those will have displacements that occur, and we've included in the budget $5,000 to make any of those V-ditch repairs. Legal services are just, if necessary, $1,000. Legal notices to mail out the annual notifications to the property owners. And then district administrative expenses, there's a transfer of around $7,000 to the city's general fund. That is to pay for payroll purposes, payment of bills, and other things related to the district association. So what we have is about total expenses of $27,594. We're projecting total income of around $40,000, and therefore we are expecting an increase, a net equity increase to the jihad fund balance of around $12,000. What we do not have in here, however, is, and we'll be bringing that forward to you in the summertime, is around $10,000 to actually have Frank Berlager and Associates go out and take a look at what those inclinometers and piezometers are doing. And so we will bring back a jihad amendment at a later point in time when we know that exact cost. But what we're asking for you to do is to receive the report, and then if there's any public comments, Mr. Chairman, by the public, and then if not, we recommend adoption of the district's budget, which would include the setting of July 18th as the public hearing where people have an opportunity to come down and protest the assessment. One final note, the assessments are increasing by the CPI, which is 3.78. We have been questioned by Proposition 218 and whether that's at play, because is that an increase in the assessment and therefore the people get to vote by ballot on that assessment? And the answer is no, because in year past, the people up in that area, the property owners, were balloted, and one of the things that they allowed was a CPI increase. And under Prop 218, that is not considered, that CPI adjustment, an increase in the assessment levy, let's say for a practical purpose because we want to raise monies, or they do, in order to put in a retaining wall or further dewatering wells. So we do allow, however, with a notice that people may come down to the July 18th public hearing, and they can certainly petition and request that the Board of Directors not impose that CPI adjustment, because that is a discretionary act, but it's not subject to actual balloting. So I wanted to pass that clarification on.
That is an excellent summary, Gary. You did great in Rick's stead.
I was trying to match the finance manager's time period.
and I just also to note for the public, the fund balance of 12, as Gary mentioned, is going to go by the wayside rather quickly when we deal with monitoring. This jihad has been woefully and inadequately financed for a very long time, and without even the CPIs, we would be operating in a deficit and would not be able to provide the monitoring that I think is necessary and that the people want. So this is, what Rick would have said if he were here was, this is all necessary to keep the jihad floating and doing its job to the best of its ability within the funds it's allowed. So with that, I will open public comment. Any member of the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will close public comment and bring it back up here for a motion.
I would move adoption of the resolution approving the district's budget for fiscal year 2017-18, which action includes setting July 18th, 2017 as the public hearing date on the proposed jihad real property tax assessments for fiscal year 2017-18.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Any items for future meetings? Seeing none, then we will adjourn the meeting till the next scheduled meeting.
Which will be July 18th. Thank you.
There we go.